All right. Guess we can go ahead and start. Hi, I'm Lili Cheng, and today we're going to show you a bunch of new work that the group's been doing, a lot of short 10-minute demos. We're going to try to stay on schedule, so if you can just hold questions until the end of the presentations, that'd be great. Just a quick agenda. The first 5 presentations relate to social networking, blogs, and there's a few mobile projects. And then for the second half of the presentation, we'll be going over some work that we've been doing with the Longhorn team, sharing projects, and some meeting prep, and then a project that we've been working on together with the Xbox group. So I think I'll go ahead and introduce Shelly Farnham. She's going to start off with the Wallop project. And if you have, I think I have one more slide. All the presentations you can view later. They're all being recorded, and we have a SharePoint too with all the presentations. So if you have any questions or anything, just feel free to grab me or any one of the presenters. All right?
Hey. So I'm Shelly Farnham. I'm a researcher in the social computing group. And this is Sean Kelly. He's a research developer. And we're going to be talking about Wallop, a social networking and communication and sharing tool that we've done in collaboration also with Will Portnoy, an intern in our group. Let's see here. Oops. Oh, I'm sorry. You generally find that people are increasingly beginning to integrate social technology into their day-to-day lives. And what you're going to see today over the next several projects are what we've been classifying as social software projects that really try to focus on helping people meet their social goals, helping people who are social be more social, providing people with continuous access to, awareness of, and communication with the people that they care about as a part of their day-to-day lives. And we're really trying as much as possible to seamlessly integrate it into the sort of communication that people are already experiencing. People are trying to, through these technologies, keep their friends up to date about their activities, and they're also trying, through these technologies, to develop new social relationships. Now, the challenges that we face in exploring and developing these social software technologies generally fall into how do you represent identity information, but also, I think, more importantly and more of a challenge is how do you represent the social interactions that people are having, who's talking to who knows who, the groups and cliques and networks that are developing. Also, as much as possible, we're trying to integrate communication with media sharing, and again, we're trying to do it in a really lightweight way. And then a real problem with some of the more larger scale social networking projects is how do you build critical mass in a project where you really pull in to an application not only that person but all of their friends, and then given that, how do you scale to those groups? So with Wallop, we're trying to focus on meeting people's social goals in a number of ways. The basic idea behind the project is we're building conversation in the context of shared media around a social network. There are many opportunities within Wallop for people to project identity in a very rich way, learning about others as well. But again, as much as possible, we're trying to do this through really lightweight authoring, and you'll see that soon. Sean will demo that. But one of sort of the main ideas behind Wallop is we want to create this environment where people have many, many opportunities to bump into their friends and also friends of friends. So it's sort of like a centralized social awareness sharing and communication tool in the context of this social network where you can really browse around, see how people are connected, not only through a map, but just through connections in the shared media itself. And you can really sort of overhear what are the conversations that are occurring in the context of that shared media. Another really important idea behind Wallop is that you can really learn a lot about others by seeing them in their social context. Not only the content itself is very personalized or filtered depending on the relationships between people, where those social networks are either explicitly created by our users, so you create a link to a friend, but also implicitly created. And I think this is a very, very important idea. that we're making or inferring these network connections based on your actual communication behavior. With the idea that sometimes these are more meaningful because you really learn a lot about somebody by seeing how they interact with somebody that you don't, and then how people interact back that you just don't get from those more explicit statements about the self. And then finally, again, as I mentioned before, we're trying to integrate that into the day-to-day stream of communication that people have. And Sean will show you all about that.
So I'm going to give you a quick run-through of some of the social awareness tools that we've built in, including a social network, some activity, how we do point-to-point or connect people together, how we do embedded conversations. We support blogging and, of course, email and IM integration. I think the first thing I should probably show you is what Wallop looks like when you aren't actually on the site or using the client. Wallop is basically a communication system that leverages the rich media that you have online and uses that in your communications. So right here you're seeing just an Outlook client, and this is a message from a coworker of ours, Will Portnoy. And you can see his pictures there under his name, the one that he wants to represent himself with. Here's my picture, and we're talking about somebody else's picture that was uploaded, and it's an aerial view, and I'm asking, what's this a photo of? And this all occurred over, the initial contact point occurred in the picture itself, and then these two replies occurred just on email, so you don't actually have to visit Wallop for other people to overhear this conversation. So here's what Wallop looks like when you log in. There's three main areas on the screen. On the left-hand side, this is a social network including the most important people to me on Wallop. These are the people I interact with the most frequently. You can see Will's here, a developer who worked on the project with us, Lili, who's my manager, Shelly, my coworker, some people from my band that I play with regularly, and we use Wallop to sort of put pictures up and things like that. Just people who visited and I've invited to join. And you can see in the center area is all my recent activity. And this is what other people see about me when they come to visit the site. It's sort of a snapshot of what I've been doing and what I want to sort of be overheard doing. It's done in sets. So this query basically has 75 of the most recent important things to me. Here's some pictures that I've uploaded recently, some conversations. So I can browse through this collection pretty easily and just go through. And what's important to realize is that these aren't just my pieces of content that are activity about me. It could also be conversations I'm taking part in. So you can see here is something that somebody else wrote to me that is actually embedded in a picture. And so if I click on the picture, I can expand it and actually see the conversations going on. Here's something that I wrote about the picture, and then here's something that my friend Dane wrote that I responded to. So I can look at this and actually get the context of the conversation immediately embedded in the image itself. As I look around, I can see different types of media. This is a picture. These things here with the set of dots are blog posts. So I can see here's a blog post from a friend of mine that some of you in the audience might know. And you can see this is pictures that she's posted from the MSN 8 ship party. So I can take a look at these. There's a couple of people in the audience who are in the pictures, but I won't embarrass them too much. We'll move right along. You can also present these pictures. We can also present these pictures as a slideshow, so in a richer media format. We can also email this to anybody that I want. So if I want somebody to see, pictures from the party, I can share that with them, and Wallop will implicitly pick up a new identity based around that email and add them into the social network. So taking a look at this sort of reminds me that I need to update my own blog. So I'm going to go to that through my preferences. And this is my blog. A blog is essentially a collection of photos and text on Wallop that I may have emailed in or added explicitly. So here's some things that I've been emailing into the site. Let's say I have some new pictures. So I want to start a new post. So I would just type in new pics. I can save that. And then I go over here to the third area of the screen, which is my media bin. And this actually contains all the things I've been uploading. I have pictures here, MP3s, and also a section of links to other things on the site that I'll go into in a little bit. So let's say I want to drop in, there's a poster for my band. I want to advertise it to my friends. All I have to do is sort of drop that in. I can go in here, grab an old picture of me from when I was blonde, which is sort of interesting. So maybe I want to make a comment on that. I'm going to identify myself in the picture so everyone knows that it's me. And I can add a comment directly into the media. And that's now embedded on the picture. I can look at it with or without the media just by moving my mouse on or off of it. So basically, that's how you blog. You can also blog from email or IM. It does basically the same thing, lays out collections. I noticed that in my social network, there's some people that I might want to take a look at what they're doing. So I can browse them very easily just by selecting them. I can pull up the latest activity for people that I know who are active in the network. So here's some conversations. There's some responses here to things, so I can click on the thread and get exactly what's being said. So here's a conversation I'm having with Karen about that blog entry. And she actually entered that in from an email. So she's never actually visited Wallop to do any of these conversations. They all take place just in her own medium that she's happy with. I can also see other people in the network that I know. So, for example, here's a guy named Bubba who used to work at Microsoft. Some people here know. And I can very quickly figure out, well, what do Bubba and Karen have in common? How do they know each other? And this pulls up what we're calling a point-to-me query. And this is all the things on Wallop that they share in common. These might be pictures. Here's, for example, a picture of them from a party that they were in together. So Wallop is able to know and associate the two people together from that. There's a bunch of different comments that she may have made on pictures that he's in or that he's taken, that sort of thing. So I can really quickly get a really good idea of how people on Wallop are related, even if I know them or if I don't know them. So there might be somebody in this network like, I don't know who Adam is. Maybe he's a developer in the group that Karen works in. But I can quickly go to him in the network, immediately pick up, okay, here are the things Karen's saying about them. Here's some pictures that he's been in. And here's some other people that are identified in those pictures. I can also browse the network just by clicking on anybody's name that I want. There's nobody identified in this picture area, but if I knew them, I can go through and actually add them in. So I'm going to go, let's say, browse Karen's recent activity. Maybe I'll go back to a set of pictures that she's in. And I can use subqueries around any person up here at the top. So if I want to find while I'm browsing anything by Karen, I can query all the pictures that exist in the system that have her identified in them. So it's rolling through here. I can pick out a picture and see there's a conversation going on here. And I see someone in the picture I know who hasn't been identified yet. I can very easily just select them, go up to their picture, hit identify. This is someone who actually isn't in Wallop yet, so I can create them as a new person. Does anyone know Walter's alias by any chance? Might be.
We just call him WK, right? Probably something else.
I think it's what is it? W. Monkosh. Thank you. And I create him as a person. And you'll see there, now he's in the system. So basically, one of the things we realize is a lot of the pictures about you and that you're interested in aren't actually pictures that you own. So I'm actually doing the work for Walter to get him into this network. And when I invite him later on to join and give him a password, he can log on. He'll already be connected to the people he shares photos with. He'll be connected to me because I invited him. And he'll already have an identity and a sense of presence. So we're sort of bootstrapping the network for people as it goes along so they don't have to do the work of confronting an empty profile that they then have to do all this authoring work to accept. So one of the things about Wallop that's really nice is that we support things like mobile SMS. We support IM, support a number of different ways of viewing images. So I can look at Shelly, and I know that she just took a picture of me earlier from her mobile phone. And I can search around. I can see, aha, here it is for me setting up for the demo. And so basically anything that you use as a regular piece of communication, IM, email, or your phone, all talk to Wallop, and Wallop can talk back to them. So if I actually add a comment on this, this comment will actually, because she's the author of the picture, be now emailed back to her phone where it came from. And she can look at it and respond right away on the system. Okay, so here's how we built Wallop. It's fairly straightforward. And in fact, a lot of the projects you're going to see today following this one use a very similar approach in terms of using SQL Server to do a custom object database. And we've been able to leverage that for a number of different projects. We use a set of ASP.NET XML RPC protocols in order to propagate objects into the database, query them, manipulate them, on the system for multiple users at the same time. And we're hoping that's a really good model for doing interpersonal projects that can scale up to large numbers of users pretty easily. Also uses a web server, which is how all the images and we support MP3s and other things. The content gets up onto the server, which is separate from the object model. We have a MAPI email process, some IM processes that monitor communications for you, and then obviously we have the client, which was built in Flash MX, so we could distribute it to any browser, and you can also use any email client that you want to talk to and from Wallop. So next steps, we've actually deployed Wallop internally, which means that if you have a Microsoft.com email address, you can sign on and use it. And we really want you to get a lot of feedback from people. Please email us if you want to be invited onto the system, or maybe people you know are on it and can invite you. There's a sign-up sheet over in the back, actually, next to Michael Cohen. So if you want to go over to that area and sign up and just put your alias on it, we'll invite you and sign you up and get you started. We might ask you to email a picture into Wallop just to have something there we can identify you with and start your network for you. You can also visit www.mywallop.com to participate as a guest. If you just email us and say you want to be a guest and you don't want to be on it but you want to look at it, we'll just give you a password that lets you poke around in the system without being identified. We also have a feedback alias that we started called Wallop at Microsoft.com. It's our auto DL thing where we want to get feedback internally. And then we're moving towards a test deployment in September where we're going to permit external users. We'll probably seed it with about 100 initial users. We want to see how usable is the software, how does it scale with that many users, and especially what's the growth pattern, how do these networks grow. And we want to really track if our network and similarity measurements hold up to that kind of growth. So I guess we'll take some questions for about a minute, and thanks a lot. No questions? Great. My job is easy.
Okay, I'm Jia-Chi. Oh, switch. Where is it? Oh, okay. I'm Jia-Chi from the University of Washington. And we'll talk about, Ryszard and I will talk about the project we've been working on during the summer. We'll talk about the goal of this project and do a demo, and then discuss some of the issues we've encountered and conclude with future work. The goal of this project is to design a lightweight application that enables the interchange of rich status among people, and it allows people to post pictures, annotations, and comments, and it provides instant notifications of the change of status. The intended interaction is more open than instant messaging and closer to weblogs where people can look at anyone's pictures or comments. So this is Messenger, and the contacts are represented by an alphabetical list of icons, and very little can be known about these people from the list. And here's a flipper running on Windows XP, and we have a list of people, and this is me, and these are the people I care about. We can browse the pictures from Scott, for example. Okay. There are some information such as how many comments there are, how old this picture is, and how many people have looked at the picture. And we can read the comments or post a new one, and we can look at who have looked at the picture. And now I'm going to switch to Longhorn. So we developed a tile version of the flipper. So again, we have a list of people, and this is me and all the other people. And we can adjust the size of the picture so that it doesn't take too much space of the sidebar. Okay. We can pick who I want to see in the tile using this. For example, we can pick people directly from the list, or we can use this filter to search person I want to see. And we can sort people by importance so that people that I care more about have pictures that are shown in bigger size. Okay. And again, we can browse the pictures. So these are the pictures from Sumit. And though I don't personally know him, from this picture I can. Yeah, so from these pictures I can get a rough sense of what kind of person he is. And also we can read the comments, so it gives us an idea how he interacts with other people. Okay. And I can post new pictures by dragging the picture into the tile for myself, and click OK. And then here there's a green light flashing, and it indicates that a new picture was posted. And it works if somebody else posts a new picture, and also if somebody else posts a new comment. And finally, we have a slideshow option that cycles through all the pictures. Okay, so notice that we use smooth transition so that it's not too distracting when the user is focusing on his own work. And Ryszard will talk about the rest.
Can you switch to what do we have here? Okay, so my turn is to talk about underpinnings of this project. But before I do that, I would like to mention that this style in Jia-Chi won the competition for the best style that the Longhorn sidebar team was organizing last week. So we were very happy about that. Now, what's interesting and what's new about the technology we use here is that we used peanuts, and of course it's fresh, and about the only thing that has been done before is the 3 degrees that you might know. So in a way, peanuts was a very natural choice for this type of application because it supplies instant notification and instant propagation of data around the network. And also, you can distribute the data only to the people who are interested or subscribed in the source. And another aspect of P2P which was interesting was that it is, you can look at it as a distributed database. So how did we design it for this application? PeerNets has a notion of graphs and groups, and because we have this philosophy of free access, we use the graph layer for the people who know a little bit about P2P. So we took care about scalability here, And the first thing that we thought about was, how would thousands of people scale here? So we have a master graph, and master graph essentially is a place where people, I'm sorry about that, where people advertise themselves, and so those circles in this white oval are simply representing name records that represent people. We also have some statistics attached to that, for example, how many pictures a person has. And then we have personal graphs. So each person has a personal graph, and what's in that graph is the pictures of the owner the personal graph of person A has only pictures of person A, and then we have some records that note usage patterns and statistics. So these are the other smaller records that go on there. And so basically, this design makes for bulk of the data being transmitted over the personal graphs, and there are not many users of that graph, so this should be too bad as far as the data traffic, and only small name records go over the main graph. So what issues that we have and what problems did we encounter when doing this? Well, first of all, there is a latency. We knew about this, but it turned out a bigger problem. It is? Okay. Thanks. But it turned out to be a bigger problem that we were thinking. There is a latency, few seconds and sometimes more per each graph that needs to be opened, advertised, synchronized, and updated with new data. Whereas if we look at the database, if we look at the PeerNets as a database, distributed database, it's a very limited functionality there. Basically you can query at the record level only, so you can ask questions like, I would like to get my pictures from last few days, but what's not supported is asking questions like, or making queries like, get 5 people with most pictures, because this is a query about my data, not the records. Then when designing such an application, another issue is that issue specific to P2P are that the record can expire on you, and that updates have to be done carefully. So all this, and especially the first two issues, make it for a design where the application writer has basically cached the records. There is practically no way around it if a user experience is to be reasonable. So for the next steps, we would like to deploy it around. We've got about 20 users that tried this application so far. We would like to assess scalability. In principle, you should be able even to have million users on the master graph, but we need to see that it really works nice. Then we would like to improve functionality, changing IDs and maybe having multiple IDs, like IDs that Wallop uses, would be nice. And the first question that we always get when we do a presentation to anybody is, what about this free access that anybody can see my pictures? Can we have some buddy groups? So, it goes a little bit against philosophy of this project, but it's a frequent question, so maybe we should listen to the users. And then, of course, we would like to integrate it better with Wallop and other projects that we have in our group. So that concludes this part of the presentation. If you have questions, we'll be happy to answer them. Okay.
Yeah, do you think about, my impression was you have this huge master graph, and then you just sort of randomly decide what items you want to select, the people you want to pull from that. So did you think about it, 2 people maybe pick similar things that they want to look at, somehow connecting those 2 people together?
Well, I mean,
it's like an ad hoc
those ideas are, of course, around. It wasn't a goal of this project to have that, but yeah, that probably would be somehow possible.
It'd be kind of a neat way to kind of maybe narrow down the millions of users to people.
That would require probably to distribute more, sort of association type information over the master graph, because this is the only thing that everybody sees. I mean, everybody sees only master graph and personal graphs of people who they enlisted to, right? So if you would like to find out patterns between, you know, I'm doing this, somebody else that I'm not subscribed to doing that, then you would have to propagate information of the master graph.
Yeah, I guess I was just sort of thinking it would be a way of sort of ordering the master graph that people, you know, instead of just randomly having a random order that you're picking from where you might be interested, other ones where similar people have similar setups to yourself, to your personal graph.
You could say that it would be certainly worthwhile to do that. You have.
Well, is this synchronous? Is this required? If I have filtered for somebody that I want to watch, does it require that person be online for me to get the last 5, or is the last 5 out there in the cloud? Well,
that depends on how many people are enlisted to see or whatever you want to see. Basically, for data to propagate anywhere, nodes have to be present on the same graph.
Right.
So you know.
It's out there in the cloud then.
Right.
Okay.
So, but if you have 5 people who have that data because it has been already dispersed, then you know the fact that you post new picture and you go offline doesn't mean that somebody who wasn't online at the moment won't see them, because it will propagate to people who are online, and then other people who are offline, when they log on, they will get your picture. So, but yes, this is more suited to a corporate environment where, you know,
but those pictures
computers are on all the
that
time.
person's ID. So when I'm filtered for that person, the graph connects me to whoever is closest to me that has the pictures of that person.
The locality of the P2P graph is not exactly.
No, I know. So when that list, when you were selecting to filter for people, do I have to be online to show up in that list?
No,
okay.
no. I'm sorry. That was simply, list of people who advertise themselves on the master graph, regardless whether they are on or off,
okay.
right? Okay. Thank you.
So I'm Lee Tiernan. I'm a researcher in the social computing group, and I also want to mention Eric Fellheimer, an intern from MIT who also worked on this project. So the goal for the Mobile Flipper project was to enable what we're calling live presence through photo sharing on mobile devices. And by live presence, we mean the keeping people you care about, your friends and family, aware of the events that are happening in your life. So Eric, for his summer project, developed a prototype version of the Flipper application for Pocket PCs. And we are currently running a field study just looking at usage of the mobile version of Flipper as well as the desktop version and its impact on connectedness and awareness amongst groups of friends and family. So let me quickly jump right in and do a demo. And let's see. Okay. Hang on, I can zoom in. Ooh, not that way. Okay, a little bit bright, but so this is what it looks like on the mobile device. Well, first of all, what I've got here is a Pocket PC with a phone and a camera in it. So obviously with the camera, which is right here, person can take pictures, and through the phone connection, it's basically an internet connection. A person can both share and receive photos. Oops, and you get lots of nice pop-ups like that. And the idea behind the idea behind the mobile version of Flipper is that sharing photos is extremely easy. So the default setup is that you take a picture, it automatically gets sent out, to your buddy list. And so anyway, so when you first fire up, sorry, those come with the device, fortunately. How about this? Okay, we'll see. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, bear with me for just a second. Oh, okay. Everyone's on it. Where's end? There we go. Okay. So, when you fire up the mobile flipper application... Oh, man. I thought N was supposed to do it. What happened?
Now you have to click on the radio stack and turn it off.
Cool. All right. The thing's just freaking out.
Control the. I pulled.
Okay. All right. That's so irritating.
We know it's real because you're.
Okay, that doesn't normally happen. I think what's going on is that you barely get cell phone connection here, and so it's keep trying to get the cell phone connection. Oh man. All right. Well. That's really frustrating. Let's see.
Do you need to be connected at all?
What's that?
Do you need to be connected?
No, I don't. Okay, well.
I can show you. You want to turn off your radio completely?
What's that?
You want to turn off your radio completely?
Sure, you can hold down that. Okay, cool. There you go. All right, well, I can fortunately have some screenshots. I can talk about it while he's doing that. So when you fire up Flipper, you see you're basically two. Oh, did you get it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, very nice. Okay. So when you open up Flipper, you go to the main screen, and you see these are my buddies around the periphery of the screen. It opens up right to you, so I'm in the top in the center, Scott LT, and you see the currently viewed image is the one, kind of larger right in the middle. These are a couple of pictures that I took of us when we were setting up for the demos. Of course, you can scroll through them using the buttons on the device. You can also, of course, scroll through your buddies, also using the buttons or by tapping. It's Lili. So here's, this is Eric, the intern who also worked on this. These are some of his pictures, and you can scroll through. And then we've got a full screen viewing mode, so you can tap on the image or you can hit the OK button to toggle through to a fuller screen viewing mode. And, of course, you can still scroll through the pictures. And we support the same features as the other version of Flipper, so you have you can add comments and view reading comments, and you can also see who's viewed the image. Okay, so now, let's see. Okay, so again, we have, just to recap in case that wasn't clear, you've got the main screen, you've got a full screen view where you can do comments, and then we're also working on some integration with the Today screen. So the Today screen is kind of like the main screen on the Pocket PC, and of course that's the natural place for notification of new content. Very quick notes on the implementation. So for the back end, we're using a modified copy of the Wallop database and middleware. The client was built in .NET Compact Framework with C#, and basically we do a content refresh on a timer. So right now it's set for 8 minutes. And I did want to mention that it does integrate with the desktop version of Flipper. And there are obviously some issues specific to working with the mobile device in addition to the small screen real estate. So for example, you have a limited processing power. You have a slow and intermittent internet connection. So whenever you're out of cell phone range, you've also lost your internet connection, of course. Now, one of the really interesting things about just kind of looking at the desktop version versus the mobile version of Flipper is that the content itself is really noticeably different. So let me just show you some examples. So here's the desktop version, and here are the pictures, the same pictures that I just added before. So this person, Ernie, so he added all of his photos using the desktop version. So if we just kind of scroll through, he's also into paragliding. Anyway. So now we go up and let's look at Tim's picture. So Tim was using exclusively the mobile version of Flipper. Here he is at a picnic, kind of random picture there, going on a bike ride. And so generally what you see is that overall the pictures taken on the mobile devices are just a lot more informal. The photo quality tends to be a little bit rougher, obviously much less composed. But what you tend to get are pictures of people in a context, right in the flow of what they're doing. So there's this very sort of now or immediate sense of what the person is doing. And so it kind of raises the question, does that give you a better sense of this life presence, sort of what their day-to-day activities are? So as I mentioned, we're doing a field study, and we have groups of 4 people, friends or family members, and we're studying their digital photo sharing for 2 weeks. So for 1 week, they just do digital photo sharing as they normally would. 2 of them are given devices just like this. They can take pictures and send them over email, which is the sort of off-the-shelf photo sharing experience with the device. And then for the second week, they use the flipper system. Again, 2 using just the desktop version and 2 using the desktop and the mobile version of Flipper, so we can kind of get a sense beyond just that off-the-shelf photo sharing you get with a digital camera phone. What does the mobile Flipper give you? And then how different is the experience, just the desktop version versus also using the mobile version? And of course, we're collecting usage measures and also through surveys and interviews trying to get a sense of their connected, how it impacts connectedness and group cohesion and enjoyment and so forth. So just some very preliminary results hot off of Excel here. We've wrapped up one group of 4 people. So just from their feedback, they really like the system. They reported sharing photos is a lot easier and more fun. A couple of things that they suggested that aren't currently supported. Additional control over authoring. So right now, as I mentioned, you take a picture, it's shared out to buddies in your list. And it's super easy and just lightweight usage. But of course, in some cases, you want to have control over who gets to see what pictures. So sort of a trade-off there. How do you get that into the system, that control, without making it heavyweight? Also, they unanimously supported integrating photo sharing like this with instant messaging. In terms of usage, we do have usage data from 3 groups of 12 people, 6 desktop exclusive users, and 6 people also using the mobile version. Average number of photos shared over a 1-week period by just desktop users is 11. Average number shared by desktop and mobile users, 19, 13 of which are coming from the mobile device. So about 70% of the photos they're sharing coming from the mobile version of Flipper. The numbers in parentheses are standard deviations, so there's a lot of variance here, and it's still really early in the data collection. Also, in terms of comments, people that have that mobile version of Flipper are adding twice as many comments so far. But interestingly, they're not adding them on the device because it's cumbersome, but they are still more participatory in terms of adding comments overall. So again, we're trying to kind of enable this life presence, that keeping people you care about aware of what's going on in your life through photo sharing on mobile devices. Sort of where are we going from here? There are a bunch of images or issues that need to be resolved that I think kind of fall under the rubric of scalability. So in addition to how do you scale to lots of buddies and lots of photos on the limited screen real estate, what about persistence of images? So maybe people want to have sort of a history of these photos, and so you might design some kind of time-based interface for that. Or maybe maybe people just want it to be more ephemeral, right? Just kind of fade away over time. Again, this additional control over authoring. And of course, we're planning to sort of ramp up with additional studies and move to studying usage with larger groups of people and eventually deployment at kind of a larger scale. So thanks. Yes?
So you guys obviously, you were shooting to be having this work only while connected?
I'm sorry, what's that?
This application only works while connected?
We did do some work. I mean, obviously it's an issue because you're always going in and out of cell phone connectivity. It works offline, so the images are actually cached on the device locally. On the server side, they're scaled down so that they're small in size. The average image size is like 13K. So you can actually fit quite a number of images on the device. So you can view offline, but you won't get new content, of course, until you're back in a
Why won't
cell
you
phone
get
activity.
new content? I mean, you guys aren't using MMS?
No, not right now. It's just going through the internet connection.
So have you guys discussed using MMS?
We've thought about it. We haven't taken that step yet. That would be good, though. You work in that area, I take it. Maybe we should talk. That sounds good.
Sure.
Hi, my name is Pedram Keyani, and I'm working with Shelly Farnham on a project called Swarm. And the goal of the project is to provide people with peripheral social awareness and smart convergence. And that's kind of an abstract term, but hopefully in about 8 minutes it'll make more sense to you. So the project is basically meant to provide people with connections, contact information, and awareness of what their groups are doing. And we base this on cell phones because cell phones have pervaded our lives. They're very precious to most people's lives. You see people from ages of 10 to 90 using cell phones. It's very popular in Europe, and so it's a great platform for building social software that people use. So I'm going to start by talking about smart mobs, giving you a little bit of background what they are. So this is a term coined by Howard Rheingold, and basically it arises when people use communication and computer technologies to communicate, coordinate, and mobilize very spontaneously and effectively. The kind of technology that we're talking about are websites, instant messaging, email lists, and cell phones that people use to disseminate information. So some examples of these are activists, star groupies, flash mobs, which are pranksters, and emergency workers who can use this kind of technology to keep in touch with each other and coordinate their activities. So I'll give you an example of real-life smart mobs in action. So in 1999, the Anti-World Trade Organization protests were by and large organized through websites and people using their cell phones. 2001, the president of the Philippines was ousted by millions of people who demonstrated, and the demonstrations were organized using cell phones. This is real technology being used to empower and unify people fighting something that they couldn't do on their own. So Swarm, what are the goals of Swarm? We want to provide people with a lightweight way of coordinating their activities with social groups, people in their lives, provide them with awareness of the people in their lives, what they're doing, and have a less centralized way for people to create social groups that matches what their real-life social groups are. So today people use cell phones to coordinate with people, one-to-one communication, synchronous. It's a very expressive form of communication. You can talk to someone for 2 minutes and get a lot of information from them. But it requires your attention, direct attention right then when you call someone. You have to be in a place where you can talk on the phone. And also, there's a problem that you can get dragged into long conversations when you only meant to talk to someone for a few minutes. People also use email lists to send messages to large groups of people. It doesn't require any action from the person immediately. And in fact, people can choose not to respond, which is a really nice aspect of it. One of the problems with email is that it's not on most mobile devices. You have to sit down at a computer and send emails out to other people. And so not all devices have that right now. So Swarm, what is Swarm? It's a cell phone-based SMS messaging system that we've built, and it's meant to allow you to broadcast messages to groups of people that you're interested in, change your personal status, and get the status of people that are in your lives. There's nothing to install on the phones. Most phones are SMS-enabled. This phone I brought from college with me, and it works with the system. There's no additional software, nothing for it to install. And one of the things that's interesting to note is that you're interested to be connected to your friends, not just the friends with nice mobile devices. So a lot of the more advanced mobile devices aren't going to make their way into most people's hands for the next 4 or 5 years. So I'm just going to give you a brief description of the architecture. On the user side, what you have is everyone's regular cell phones. They send SMS messages to our Swarm server through the cellular infrastructure, and then based on the commands that you send them, which I'll describe later, the Swarm server takes your information and broadcasts messages to other people, and I'll get into that a little bit later. So we'll jump into a real-life example. Here's Shelly. She's in our social group, and these are some of the interesting people or important people in her lives. So she has her group of coworkers, an intersecting group of people that she likes to have coffee with in the morning, and then other people in her life that she interacts with after work, after 5 o'clock or on weekends. Some of you might be in here. So in this picture, I'm on the far right. I'm not in her coffee group because I'm an intern. I just started. And so let's see how Shelly would add me to her coffee group. So right now, what she could do is send a message to the Swarm server saying, add Pedram to Coffee. Coffee is a group that she's created already. And the Swarm server changes her data in the backend database and changes her group to include me in it. Now, let's say the next morning, on her way to her office from the parking lot, Shelly wants to have coffee. She doesn't want to go upstairs and bother everyone or ask them if they're available or call them because, firstly, they might not be in or they might be in a meeting or doing something else. So she wants a lightweight way of getting in touch with them and seeing if they want to have coffee. So she sends this message, coffee, which is the name of the group, and Swarm understands who she's directing it to, and then the message afterwards, which is caffeine. And so Swarm relays this to all the people in her coffee group and says, Shelly sent you a message that coffee. And this is what it looks like, on my phone. Okay. Also, Shelly's gone through all the trouble of creating this social group, her coffee group, and it would be a pain for me to have to do it. So there's a really nice way of her sharing her group with me. So she can send a command, give Pedram coffee, and what happens is I get a copy of her coffee group. I don't get the same list, so we both have our own copies. Mine can grow and shrink as I see fit, and hers stays the same. So let me go back to this example real quick. Coffee is one example, but there are other situations where you might want to use this. If you're at a conference with your coworkers and you're at a talk, you can't get up and talk on your cell phone, but you can sit there and text message your friends and say, okay, let's go to this talk afterwards, and you can coordinate. Friday nights, you're in a noisy bar, you can't really talk, and you don't want to get up. You can very quickly send messages out to your friends. So here's the basic commands. The basic commands are who, add, edit, remove, and help. And they basically allow you to add people to your group, find out about them, and remove people. And then the group commands that allow Swarm to grow with your groups is you can create groups, you can give groups to other people, and the group communication is broadcasting. So you can put the name of a group at the beginning of your message, and then Swarm will broadcast that out to them. And you can also update your personal status and poll people for their personal status, similar to IM on your away message for IM. So how do we measure success? The most fundamental way to measure it is, will people really use this? Does it fit into their social lives? Do groups of people who use this, do they feel more connected, and do they spend more time together? And ultimately, because this is social software, what we're really interested in is, do people have fun? Is this adding to their lives in some way? So we have some user studies. In progress right now, we have an experimental study where we're having groups of people play a distributed card game. And we compare the SMS card game versus the phone card game. And right now, due to some technical difficulties, the phone game is a little bit faster. But what we find is that people think this is a really cool idea, and they want us to let them be part of the beta trial, which is the next step, which is an exploratory study of how real-life social groups in Seattle use this system. And that should be starting in about a week or so. Summary. So far, we've built the Swarm system. It works for the most part. And the next steps are to study how it's used in real social groups and publish papers on our ideas. And so on the bottom is our contact information and the Swarm phone number. So if you want, you can add it to your cell phone, and in about a week or so, it'll be open up for people to use. And I don't get any reception down here, but okay. Can you see that? That is the Swarm server in my office. And then I also wanted to show you what the messages look like. So when I send a message who to the Swarm server, what I get back, or I say who in my social group, SCG, which is the social computing group, it gives me back a list of all the people in the social computer group, the names of them. And I can then who each of the particular people and find out what their contact information is and what their status message is. And then this is a result of broadcasting the lunch message to the social computing group. And I guess that's all I have for the demo, since we don't have good reception in here. And with that, I'll take any questions that you have. Yeah.
So when did you decide against sharing groups? as in copying versus sharing? It doesn't seem like it would scale if the groups are changing.
Well, if you were to copy this group here, any changes that I make can change Shelly's group also. So if I were to delete someone because I didn't like them, I wouldn't want that to affect hers. But it is another option, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you considered building a more user-friendly application for people who have more advanced software?
Such as like having
an application that so you don't have to type the commands or no.
Yeah, so when we started off with this project, we came up with two ideas. One to have just a text message, a text-based user interface, and one to have a GUI. But at this point, it doesn't really make sense to go with the GUI version because so few people have mobile devices, and we really wanted to see how this gets used in the wider context of people's social groups. Yeah.
Are you interested in seeing this in other, in other countries, going to do these same studies, but like more like in Europe and Southeast Asia?
Yeah, it's always a possibility to open
you guys are planning that?
If they want to send me to Europe or Southeast Asia.
To Europe to work, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd actually be great to coordinate with Sarah and some of the people over there doing studies in the mobile group. We haven't really talked to them.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I'm a master's student at NYU studying interactive telecommunication. Okay, here we are. Okay, and so the project I was working on this summer is called Canopus, and it's about navigating the blogosphere. And Canopus is a star that was used to navigate in the desert sky, just like you use Canopus to navigate the blogosphere, which is the worldwide network of blogs. So I've been looking at some of the problems in blogging that are very similar to the problems that emerged from the initial websites. Namely, there are so many blogs, how can I find the ones that I want to look at? It takes so much time to read the blogs, how do I skim them? And when I comment on blogs, this is sort of new now that blogs are interactive, whereas websites really weren't. How can I have a conversation around a post? And so, these problems have been solved in websites by Google, but now that we have sort of blogs that allow us to interrogate this data in much more sort of interesting ways, we have many more options open to us. So one of these options is RSS, Real Simple Syndication, and it's just a simple XML version of a blog that's generated from the blogs at the top of the database. So many people nowadays use XML, RSS, to read blogs on their desktop, and this is called RSS syndication. However, one of the problems with this is that you and I might both be reading the same, 75% of the same blogs, but I have no idea because you have your own group of blogs on your desktop, and I have my group on mine, and we can't discuss about that. My social network is not growing, and I really want to know you, and because we share these common interests in blogs. And then so that's sort of where my project comes into play. How can we both sort of connect around blogs? So the Canopus solution, I'm going to be demoing the software in a second, is finding blogs through your friends, and to have Canopus poll these blogs and read them on your desktop. And thirdly, to converse with your social networks around a particular blog post, and then use syndication and the weblog APIs that are some of the technologies enabled by blogging that are different from traditional websites. Okay. So here we have a demo. This is a version. It's a working prototype. And over here I have the 5 most recent group of blogs that were added to the database, that were added to Canopus, excuse me. And so here, if I click on political blogs, for example, this is a list. So I have 3 blogs on this first screen. These are each individual blogs, and then each of these individual squares is a different blog post. And I can see if there are any comments that users have written. I can view the web post in further detail, and here I see I'm in the Canopus group political blogs, and I see that I'm on this current website. And then I can add a comment to this site if I so desire. One of the other things I can do is I can search my network and find blog groups that friends of mine have entered. So if I want to see the groups that Will has entered recently, then I can type Will, click on Buddies, and I bring up the 2 blog groups that Will has added. So I can pick up mix of blogs, and this is loading it from the database. And here are the blogs that Will has posted. And here are these yellow indicators mark new blogs that have been added, new posts that have been added to this blog in the last 24 hours. So I can view comments that people have posted over here. And I can converse with my friends that know Will and that read his that read the blogs that he reads. We can all discuss that in Canopus. And I can also look at the other blogs that Will subscribes to, and so forth. Okay. So the system is based on a similar system to the Wallop system that we saw earlier. There's a database that stores all of the blog information. There's a middle tier web application that speaks to the database and that pulls the RSS, that pulls the blog sites for newly updated information. And then there's a Flash web client that interacts with the middleware tier. Then there's also an XML RPC web service that allows you to post back to your blogger or web or other blogs that you might be using for your own personal blogging. Okay, so next steps are I would like to integrate the UA more with the back-end information to make it a sort of a richer experience visually, and I'd like to explore. I'd like to have more user testing for Canopus and to explore making this a PeerNet application so that the group sharing is a little more, that the group sharing is just more transparent. And that's it. Thank you.
What information are you trying to convey by having some of the text rotated in the client?
That's one of the things that's that's one of the things that's in progress of being. Let me go back. So you mean over here?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this text right here is in progress. It's.
Got it.
That's in progress. You don't get what that.
I think the radial thing will allow you to see large sets of data and be, just at a glance is sort of the point that, when you only have 2 or 3 results, you're not going to get much out of it. But if you have 40 or 50, you get a general sense of how much activity there is without having to have a long list.
Get a gestalt.
Yeah.
So I think we're just going to continue instead of breaking. So you really want to break? You really want to break? Or?
Keep going.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Matt MacLaurin. I'm a PM with the Social Computing Group, and I'm going to talk about Sapphire. Sapphire, some of you may know, has been sort of an ongoing project, and this is the latest iteration, which is centered around user organization. It's a collaboration we've been doing with the Longhorn team. Okay, user organization, we're basically talking about the big issue of what do you do with all the stuff on your computer? How do you organize it? How do you find it when you need it? And some of the issues we're trying to address is that organization today is a lot of work. Creating these detailed taxonomies on your hard drive. A lot of people just don't do it. And the single rigid hierarchy that it imposes on you isn't always natural. Sometimes it works great for one situation, not for another. Some people just never get into it. So the approach we're taking with Sapphire today is start with a database, relational database, WinFS, and to build the user interface around the concept of properties. And these are properties of documents. So we've built a couple prototypes and done a couple user studies. The prototypes all run on both Windows XP and Longhorn. And we've been doing it in very close collaboration with the Windows storage team. So property-based organization, the idea here is that you take a document, you look at all the things you know about it, who wrote it, what type of document it is, when it was created, and other properties. And you build an organizational user interface around that, as opposed to today where we build an organizational interface around folders. So today the user is responsible for authoring their own organization, and they're also dealing with a lot of separate stores. They've got their own hard drive, they've got maybe another hard drive, they've got a couple shares, they've got their email database. So what we're trying to do is say, okay, you can still author your organization, but we're also going to create a lot of automatic organization for you. The idea is, we're so smart, we should be able to do a good job for you. And also take all these different stores and integrate them together into one user interface. When you want to go find something, you want to have a common starting point for it. And so what this winds up is that we get multiple overlapping organizational sets that are all based on properties. So the first prototype and study that I'm going to talk about, the initial targets were to look at hierarchy and migration. Hierarchy is you take this sort of really big property space and you want to chunk it down to make it palatable to people so that they can go in and stay oriented within the space and zero in on the exact subspace that contains the item they're looking for. So we hand-selected these key properties. I refer to them as magic properties. It's document type, category, which is a sort of an umbrella concept over folders. We take your old folders and we turn them all into properties on documents. So if you put something in a folder called foo, there's now a fictional foo property on that document. And we presented this to users both with and without hierarchy. So we showed them, here's a big list of all the values for that property, or how can we chunk it up for you? And it's all one integrated store. The other part of the same prototype and same study is save as. Because I'm talking about, well, you don't have to focus on folders so much anymore. Well, everyone focuses on folders when they go to save their documents. So what do we really think save as should look like in the property kind of world? So there's two views of the save as dialogue in this prototype. One is kind of this minimal default view, and where all we're really going to ask you for is the name of the document, because that's all we really need to know. We know everything else about it. And then this other view is sort of when someone kind of panics a little, we can go in and show a category view, which, remember, category is the umbrella concept that we've sort of slurped all your folders into categories, and so that kind of gives you that folder level of confidence. So let me show you what these guys look like. Okay, so here's the first prototype, and what I'm looking at is everything on my machine. So I can see it's a mix of all kinds of different stuff, and you can see the integrated store happening. I've got appointments, I've got emails, I've got contacts, and stuff like that. And then here on the left, you see the categories. And so right now, the stuff we're slurping in is your folders, and so you see all those represented. You might not recognize them, but these are my folders. And then you also see your email folders. So it's sort of like whatever taxonomy you gave us, we're putting it into categories. And you can do it in this unified interface. And then we've also got this thing where this is a word wheel. This is something the Longhorn guys are doing too, of course, where if you know something about a document and you just, oh, I remember it had something to do with graphics. Okay, so you can go in there, and there's all the stuff that seems to have to do with graphics. Remember, I didn't tell the computer any of this. It's just what it figured out from my data itself. So I've got some emails about graphics. I've got a Word document about graphics. I've got a meeting about graphics. I'm not sure what this guy has to do with graphics or even who he is, but it pulled it out of my Outlook. And then we've got, this is kind of interesting, here's some code, of course. This doesn't have graphics in the name, but since it has the graphics property on it, because it's in a folder that has the word graphics in it, you can get it indirectly like that too. And so what we're trying to do is just get the good, throw something at us and we'll give you something back. So now that's sort of when we're looking by category view. What we found in the studies is a lot of people think first of type. They're like, I'm looking for it, I know it's a Word document. So type is one of our magic properties, and so here on the left is sort of the type space. And you can see, if you look at it, there's some kind of obvious things a person knows that maybe the computer didn't know right away. Like, an Acrobat document, it has words and pictures in it, it might be a paper, and so does a Word document. Boy, those sure seem kind of similar. So with hierarchy, what we do is we just chunk them up in a fairly obvious way. These are document types, these are music and video types, we've got pictures here and such. So again, here's the giant set, and one of the big problems in this sort of approach is that you're often getting very giant sets.
Did you hand author that schema?
Yes, we did. And so dealing with giant sets is a theme. You're going to see a few more features in some of the later prototypes to deal with that. One of the approaches we're taking here is that here's sort of your map of the space, and you can hop in and look at subspaces very easily. And you can, well, if you want to just kind of get the rest of this stuff out of the way, you can double-click here, and we're going to scope down to just that subspace. And, theoretically. And, yeah, there we are. And so now we're just dealing with Word documents. And since the space isn't very interesting for type anymore, we've gone and switched it back over to category view for you, since everything in here has the same type. So here's a Word document. It's like something I was working on. It's right at the top because we've authored a lot of other things into it, too. If you're viewing by type, we're going to order by recency. If you're viewing by date, we're going to order maybe alphabetically. So we're trying to switch a lot of those parameters of the view around for you. So this is cool. So here, if we want to take a look at what Save As looks like, and Save As, you could go really super minimal on it, but it's just such a central operation in every user's daily experience that we've kind of compromised a bit. So here, this guy already has a name, so you see I don't have to type it. This area, we're showing you all the properties that we already knew about the document. You can go ahead and edit them, but we're trying to get this sort of in-between. We don't want to give you this giant form to fill out. We want to say, look, we know all this stuff already. You're going to be able to find it. But if you want, you can go in here and tweak stuff. You can add another author to it, and it'll auto-complete for you, or you can pick authors from a menu. You can add comments, and then we'll also put edit comments in as you edit. So that is prototype 1 there. And that stuff is all integrated with the Office suite today. We've done the plugins, and they all talk to the database on the back end. So the results, we took this and ran this over in the usability labs with 8 internal users. We sort of tried for low-tech users. We got kind of medium-tech users. We gave them our XP. We had them bring their own data into the lab. So because it's a very different experience when you see your own data and your own taxonomies showing up in this kind of interface. The really cool stuff is that everyone completely got it for finding. I mean, they kept kind of blowing through all our challenge tasks too quickly because it was very easy for them to work with this approach. Pretty much like 99% of the successful task completions were people going in and using that typing filter and sorting by type because they were like, it's a Word document and I know something about a property, and they jump in like that. No one really missed their folders or looked for a folder hierarchy when they were saving stuff or when they were looking for stuff. But then when they went to save, everyone was like, where's my folders? Even though they knew they could retrieve by property, they weren't very confident about saving by property. And we think, and we're kind of hoping, and we think it's important to focus that may be just sort of this emotional transitional issue. But it's something we're going to have to deal with if we look at upgrading people to this kind of system. And the final thing is that although we did, all this cool automatic organization for people, people still wanted to be able to tell us about organization. They wanted to be able to tell us these two documents, even though you can't tell that they have something to do with each other, I can, and I want to put them in a set together. So we realized that, okay, we still need to do explicit authoring of organization by users, and so the next, quick one? No. Okay. So the next prototype we try to look at how we can mix a little bit of end-user authoring into it. I'm not talking about authoring multimedia, I'm talking about authoring organization. So here we want to integrate the automatic sets that we're constructing for people with lightweight authored sets. And it's a very simple list concept. We're trying to find something between the kind of lists we build by holding down the control key and going pick, 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 and the kind of lists we build by saying make new folder, put it here, and drag the stuff into it. So there's a pretty big spectrum there. Then the other thing is to explore a little more on the UI side different ways for breaking up these giant lists that we keep throwing at people. So there's a screenshot. Let me show you the actual demo. Okay, so this is, again, all items view. We're looking at about 3,000 items, but notice we're not in just some overwhelming window that just goes on and on forever. We want to give people a feeling that they're on top of it, they can see all their data. And one of the tricks we've used to do that is like if you see here, the Word documents set. Notice I click, I get a little preview of the page, trying to be more responsive there. This set contains 72 items. Why am I only seeing 8? Well, it's compressed right now. And so I can uncompress it. I want to see all of them. I want to dig into this group. Or I can compress it all the way and say this group isn't interesting to me at all. I can also hop around, using the sort of contents map over here. And then the other thing is that, okay, this is great, but it's still a pretty big list. So we want to see, can we get it? So you can see your entire document space more or less on one screen at once. And so we went to using stacks. And you've probably seen stacks in some of our previous research. These guys, what we're doing here is we're taking that hierarchy, and you see it's a 2-level hierarchy. and when we bring it into stacks, each top-level node of the hierarchy gets one of these grouping things, and then the levels below it get stacks. And the stacks are all sort of normalized to about 10 pages high. And then with the mouse wheel, you can kind of flip through the stack. And just looking for that quick hit, it's like, okay, I'm not sure, is it in here? You can kind of riff through it really quickly and see if that's the set you were looking for, and pictures too and such. So now if I zoom in on like the Microsoft Word documents, just because I love Word so much, you can go in, and here it said, wow, there's no more clusters left under here. Everything here has the same type, and you told me to group by type. This prototype doesn't switch viewing dimensions on you. But you can say, well, let me break this up a little. I want some guidance navigating this space. So I'm switching back over to category, and one fun thing you see here is, remember, we slurped all my folders over, and they're properties now. And so this top-level stuff is all the things that pulled out of my documents. These are all batched by the folders they were initially in, but it's not the folder. This is not a folder object. This is the intersection of the Microsoft Word property space with these individual folder spaces. So it gives you that good recognition and migration of your data, and you can recognize the structure of your stuff. But we're trying to refine the sets down as much as possible as we go. So now I was talking about list building, and let me show you how that works. So I'm going to go into this view because it makes it a little easier to manipulate individual items. So the idea here is, I click and maybe I control click. Okay, now I'm building a set. What else could I possibly be doing by control clicking like that? So it starts to build this little ad hoc stack on the left for me. And I can just click on that stack. And what I've now done is I've just persisted a new list object into the database. I said this is at least interesting enough for me to have just done those operations, so it's easy enough for the computer to save it for me. So I can, if I want, now one thing that was, I'll just go ahead and rename it. One thing that was cool, about doing the user studies is that people were picking up on this stuff so quick they kept reflecting things back to us that we haven't even really deduced about the interface yet. And one of the things is that this is great, it's very task-oriented. It's like I want to send these 5 pictures to someone, I pop, put them into a list, and then I can apply verbs to the list here. This list, interesting. Let me make a new one. Okay, so now we've got these lists that I've created automatically for myself. We're really trying to visually distinguish them. This is an authored list. This is an automatically generated list. And since this list, say here I want to send this list of a couple documents to someone, they also asked for all my Visio drawings. Okay, so I can just go ahead and grab this dynamically generated list over, drag it into my explicitly authored list, and we get this little fusion thing. So here's the 4 documents I added in, and here is, see, it's italicized, it's got a little magnifying glass on it. Here we're trying to indicate this is this magic little object that's always going to be all the Visio documents on your machine. And people got this. That was really the amazing thing about this stuff, is let me go into the results, is these were the lowest tech users we could possibly find, and everyone picked up all these subtle things about the interface, like when you build a list, it's all references to the original object. Can I put something in 2 lists? Is it the same object? They got all these things right away. They understood that it was a link back to the original object. They understood that when I dragged the dynamic list into the static list, it was still a dynamic object. So they picked this stuff up really well, and that was a big surprise to us. And the other thing is that everyone really felt that this was a very comfortable environment for them. They had really high confidence that they could find their documents, and generally they preferred it to using the Windows XP shell for storing and organizing their documents today. A lot of them talked about, wow, they were able to draw the analogies with folders, but it's like, oh, so you did it for me, or you made these folders for me and stuff. So that was a very positive and encouraging response. So the next stuff we're doing is we're doing weekly meetings with the Longhorn storage team. They're the guys who are chartered for getting this kind of stuff into the next level of product, and we're feeding ideas back and forth for them. You've seen some of their ideas in here as well. We're trying to do the rapid prototyping of stuff that's risky and that are hard issues, so that they can get some of the risk out of their track and maybe tackle more ambitious features. Some of the next stuff we're going to tackle is more about migration. We don't think we've got a complete story for how you're getting your old folders in there, and to sort of get a better language for all these different kinds of lists that are floating around and such, and then integrating sharing, starting to get some of the verbs onto these lists. So there's the context. We have prototypes that are, we've got installers for them. They'll run on both XP and Longhorn. We don't support them, but if you'd like to try one, we've got an uninstaller too. You can email me. We're doing a question or two?
One thing I was wondering about is you talked about hierarchy. I know Longhorn is not really wanting to do much in the way of hierarchy for their tags or categories, etc.
Right.
And I was just wondering what your experience with the hierarchy is.
Well, it was directly supported by our user studies. And we gave it to people. We said, no hierarchy? Hierarchy. They said, we like hierarchy better. I personally like it better. It just seems to make more sense. And there's different ways. I mean, Longhorn has talked about specific implementations of hierarchy they're not interested in, but they never said we don't want a group. So it may be there's some just syntax mismatch there too. So we think we think that we can show them. Andre's not here today, but he's got some pretty good stuff going on the back end for how to do fast clustering as results come out of the database. So we think we're going to be able to help them with easy ways to tackle hierarchy that aren't high risk. Yeah.
Conceptually, what's the difference between a list and a category?
Well, that's a darn good question. A list, they're kind of invented separately. So they we're really just integrating them now. Formally, a list is just a type of category. You get exactly the same implementation on the back end. It's a property that's attached to the document.
So why did you choose to break it out as that? If they're implemented identically,
right?
You call some of them a list, and why do you call others of them categories?
It's a good question. It's partially an artifact of just the exploration process. But really, when we were starting to look at, okay, your folders have turned into categories, your email folders have turned into categories that were kind of becoming this confusing space. And it's like, wow, there's all this stuff going on in categories. I don't understand what it is. And we really want to explore explicit list building just as a separate process. It's like we didn't test categories so much in the user studies where we tested lists. But obviously, they need to integrate. You're absolutely right about that.
And some of that is a result of two studies. So in the first study, we used the word category, and we found there was some confusion by users as to what a category means because categories exist like in Office. So we tried to go with a more generic term and just get feedback from users on what terms they would use. So the Windows team is also looking at terminology as an issue.
During Save As, did you find that people still tended to put metadata into the name of the file? And if so, how would you discourage them from doing that?
Well, I don't have any studies to support this. My personal opinion is to not require them to name the document when they save it, and then encourage naming as a metadata painting process. That's what you're doing when you're naming, and that's really what it is. You're really describing the document, so those are implicitly properties anyway.
Does your gut say that we'll actually be able to get people to do that?
No, my gut says no. Okay, thanks very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Grzegorz Zareba. I am from the University of Arizona in Tucson. And today I would like to briefly talk about my summer project. The title of the project is Automatically Generated Shared Space. First of all, I would like to start from trying to show how the process of setting up shares usually is done. First of all, we need to, of course, select files we want to share, for example, and then we need to copy them into one location. And this location will be, let's say, the location from which all people we want to have access to this location will be able to access these files. The second step is to set up access permissions to all these people. So And then we, of course, need to notify all these people about this share. Usually this is done via email. So this process is pretty time-consuming. But, of course, this is not the only one available for sharing files. We for example, can send files by email, via email as an attachment. As I said, this process is pretty time-consuming. So what we would like to do, would like to automatically generate a set of suggested share, a set of shares which a user can later on use as a base for new share. To do this, of course, we need to know something about users' activity. We can take a look inside, what files were already have been already shared. So we can take a look inside shared folders. We can retrieve some information from a document metadata. And of course, very good source of information is Outlook or email. We can take a look inside sent and received messages and retrieve some information about user activity. So this is our first step, to examine user activity, to know about what he or she does, and then generate initial set of, let's say, groups of people and documents. Because this is a sort of automatic step, usually we get a lot of unwanted elements. For example, undelivered messages or junk email messages. So we need to remove them. The next step is to once again take a look at these already generated groups and remove elements which are repeated, redundant elements. And then we can try to combine already existed groups into bigger groups. How we can do this? Here are the, let's say, the two simplest methods of clustering. We can use two different similarity measures. First one is a situation when we have two separate groups with the same person in it. So in this case, of course, we can combine these two groups together and have one bigger group. And the same situation is actually with the files. When we have two separate groups with the same set of files, we can also combine them together. And actually, it's pretty difficult to illustrate the process of automatic generation of these suggested shares. So I would like to show a demo which actually can be used to create a new share. And in this case, we will see how easy it is to create a new share. I need to connect to my computer. Okay, looks okay. On the left side, we have all these automatically created groups. Each group has a name, and as elements, we have people and documents. So on the right side, we have a place where we can actually create new share. We can name the share, so we have here possibility to just place name of the share. We have a place where you can put comment, which will be visible for all users with access to this share, and a comment. And of course, the main part of the share is the area with shared files and area with people who will have access to this share. And for example, if this automatically created set of shares, if one of these shares is actually pretty close to the share we want to create, we can just simple transfer all of its elements into our new share by clicking this button. So we automatically moved these two files into this area and these two persons as a people who will have access to this share. As default, this persons has only they have only permission to read these files. We can of course change it. We can also give permission to write or full control. In this case, they can also add other people to this share. And let's say this is, of course, we can add some other elements to this share. For example, we want to add this file or something from outside. So we can also, just by dragging and dropping, we can pretty fast compose a new share. When this process is done, we can just post this share. Posting means notifying all these people here about existence of this share. So they will just get an email message with link to this share. And in this case, if this is, of course, this is email message, so we can here just put some text, some information about this share. So say this is new share. And just posting, as I said, these files will be copied into one location, and then email with link to this location will be sent to all these people. So that was pretty fast creation of a new share. Going back to the presentation. Yes?
So, quick question about that. So you shared out those items.
Yes.
But you dragged them from one place into the central thing. Now,
yes.
if you go in and change the object that you dragged into that area,
no,
you can't change that.
No, I can, but I don't do this. I'm not changing this.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is what are the semantics? So the semantics of changing an object that you just published out and shared with somebody, you're not actually sharing that object. You're sharing a copy of the object, right?
Copy. This is a copy. Mm-hmm. Of course. So. So that was the demo. As a summary, I can say that this approach, automatically generated groups, really can speed up the process of setting up a share. And this actually application doesn't work fully. We didn't implement posting the share, so we need to work on this. But this is like a matter of few days or a week. So then, of course, we have to think about authentication, because this is a pretty important issue in terms of sharing, and maintenance model, because we want to have some possibility to change the share later on, just add some elements or remove the whole share. And we would like to also do some user study, because the part which is responsible for automatic creation of these groups wasn't actually tested in full. Just few persons checked if these groups have really sense. So we would like to do some more study in this area. So this is probably everything I wanted to talk about. So, questions? No? Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Will Portnoy. I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Washington Coastal Lake and a research intern within the Social Computing Group. The name of the project is a one-page instant meeting preparation. So here's the pitch. You have a meeting in 5 minutes with some known and unknown people. Meeting prep will generate a one-page printed sheet to take to your meeting, personalized by your relationship to the attendees, the relevant communication documents for that meeting, and the location of that meeting as well. The real intent of the project is to aggregate the user's public and private data for one specific task. Okay. This project builds off some previous work that I've been involved in with the group and the group has worked on, such as Sapphire for automatically organizing items, people, documents, and emails, Point-to-Point for exploring the public Microsoft social network, which people typically use to find out how they were related to somebody else at Microsoft, and then Personal Map Outlook integration, just having tools integrated with Outlook directly for ease of use. Okay, so now I'm going to do a little demo. Let's pretend for a moment that you're Shelly Farnham, and you're sitting in the front, and you're going to a meeting with some exchange people to talk about group finding and utility. And you want to prepare for the meeting, so you go to Outlook, which I don't have running. Find the appointment on your calendar. Come on. Weird. And press the meeting preparation button on the top, and then circumvent Outlook security. Okay, so this will work. Chug for like a minute or two while it's collecting all the data live from Active Directory and your email and so on. And then poof, this will come up. And you all have this printed out, or some of you, hopefully a lot of you, have this printed out on a piece of paper in front of you so you could take a look at it and see, well, what's going on while I'm talking about it. So Shelly is the person who generated this report, not me, so keep that in mind, okay? Starting from the bottom, you could see me, who's somebody who's pretty familiar to her and not as interesting for the purposes of the meeting. But at the top, you see the people who organize the meeting, such as Bob Atkinson, who's the organizer, and then people who are not as familiar, Jason Mayans and Leon. Everybody is grouped according to DLs and departments and titles, so you get an idea of how people are related. You can see at the top 4 people are a contingent from the exchange group, and the bottom 2 are sort of a group from the social computing group. And you get an idea of how everybody fits together and why everybody's coming to this meeting. So let me talk about some of the parts about this. So basic information about the meeting. Oh, wait, let me show this while I have this up. So if you decide you don't want to print it, you bring your notebook to the meeting, as many people do. These links are all clickable. If I wanted to go to Bob Atkinson's office user profile, you get all the information about him and so on. The meeting location, it's in building 34. So you can click on that and find the, this is not the right version, find the map to the building. Should you wanted to know the floor map of the building, it's available as well. Adobe Acrobat will be coming up and showing the floor map at some point. Okay. So, all these links are clickable. If you had emails from the people beforehand, actually from Bob Atkinson, let's see, let's say some emails from, I'm sorry. This is the one. So this is the one I had open previously. So this is the one that's generated from Shelly's perspective, which wouldn't show her on the menu. So you can see in there emails from him, and you could open any of these through the Outlook shell. But they're all grouped together in one place based on the meeting participants. Okay, so let me go back to the presentation. So you have the basic information about the meeting, the overview, the text from the invitation. We emphasize the organizer and put them into the upper right-hand corner and extract keywords, terms that may be unfamiliar, if you didn't know what exchange was, let's say. And then a map of the meeting location relative to you. The attendee profiles are ordered by the distance in the org chart. So the people who are most familiar to you, such as me, on the bottom, and people who are least familiar are on the top. And then we have their photo, the title, department, office building, the phone number. For each of the people in the meeting, we have relevant emails for that meeting. So if there are any, some people don't send you emails previous to meetings, some people do. It's for a fixed period of time, 6 months before the meeting. In the future, we'd like to make the recipients of those emails match the meeting attendee list to focus them more, and then do some keyword matching. Also in the future, we'd like to extract some URLs, shares, documents, and attachments to place on the one page. Okay. The other aspect that's important is the social network analysis, that you see the connections from each attendee to you through shared distribution lists. Now, if you look at the page, for each person, each little section for recipients, you'll see a little line that says you, Ted Weber, Jason Mayans, and so on for each person. So you see, starting from Shelly, let's say look at me on the bottom, starting from Shelly running the program, going through Lili, and then to me. So you get an understanding of how the people are related, and then you could maybe, if you knew these people, perhaps you knew Pet and Ted, you would see that you were related to Jason and Jim through him. And then there's the groups among the attendees, which are the titles, the departments, and the distribution list, and it makes it really clear who the composition of the people at the meeting, the social computing group, the exchange program managers, and some exchange architects. Okay. So we do have a prototype. It runs. It was running in the background for any meeting. It'll generate a one-page meeting prep. For the future, we'd like to improve the relevancy of the selected content, generalize this process for outside of Microsoft, because this is obviously focused on the type of information we have available for Microsoft employees through Active Directory and so on. Scaling for different meeting sizes. It would not make sense to make one of these reports for this meeting here. I don't think it would come out well. And then also for really small meetings, it would probably require a different type of format to really portray the information you want to see. And then closing the loop. People talk about certain things during the meetings, and they might follow through with some links or documents as action items from the meeting. And we sort of like to bring that into one central place, such as this report, and then maybe even expand that concept further into some sort of shared space or wiki for the meeting. We'd like to perform a study and get some user feedback. The current prototype is available on that website, and if you'd like to contact us, we'd appreciate it. Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah.
How did you determine which DL to display?
So they're ordered according to org chart first, right? And then I just pick the best grouping. So I try to maximize the number of groups on the screen, which tends to be just enough to get an idea of how everybody's related. Go ahead. Yeah.
So with those relationships, how are those relationships, derived?
So we've done a lot of work previously with the point-to-point application, which is sort of a visualization where you see, well, given these two people, how are all the other people within the social network that are connected to data to? The data for that is distribution lists. So if you're on a distribution with a person and they're also on some other distribution possibly with that person, you'll kind of know there's a connection there. And then we can weight that by, significance of distribution list.
Do you also weight it by email communications between people? Or
that's more future work. That's something that we
How about pulling this view up just for messages? I mean, it'd be interesting, just feedback. It'd be interesting for me to hit a mail thread and see a summary just of the people on the roles, not just on the mail thread.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
You can do that right now by installing Polyarchy.
What's it called?
The Polyarchy server. You can email George Robertson, GGR, and get something like this on any email. So I have a question.
A little tree thing.
Yeah. So when I see this is cool, but it sort of inspires me to want to annotate it. Because, seeing one of these items by itself, I might not want to say anything, but seeing them together recall certain things that, sort of serendipitously. So in future versions, do you have any plans to allow free-form annotation?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's sort of like the whole post we run it, just having one next one. But I
Was a side goal for this to be dynamically finding who should be in the meetings without you knowing, I mean, not necessarily knowing what the relationships are?
It's sort of a thing that's sort of come up in previous work that we haven't explored in this particular context. I think that's a very good thing to have. But we haven't done anything specifically for this one. Thank you.
Okay, now to something completely different. My name is Jens Riegelsberger. I'm here from University College London. My project is called Jeitinhos. It's about matchmaking on Xbox Live. I work together with Bruce Phillips, who's here also from the Microsoft Game Studios, yeah. and with Shelly, Farnham, and Tim Regan at the Social Computing Group. This project is still in progress, so your input will be very much appreciated. And unlike the other projects you've seen before, this is not prototype development, but a large-scale study. Before I introduce the study in more detail, just some background on Xbox Live. Xbox Live, as you know, allows gamers to play online against others, and the really unique feature is that they can actually talk to each other while they do that. Xbox Live is a huge success. It was released last year in November and has now more than 500,000 subscribers worldwide. When we started this project, we did some qualitative interviews to see how Xbox Live actually is used. And there are essentially two use modes. One is to play with absent friends. So you spend a lot of time in setting up these matches. You use your cell phone or instant messenger to actually be together with your friends online. The other use mode is just to find someone to play against. And then the focus is on finding them instantly because humans are just better to play against or play with than AI. Their strategies are more interesting. And finally, as one interview put it, it's so much better if you know that you beat a human rather than just a machine. So that's a quote from one of the interviews. Just to give you an idea of how matchmaking is actually done on Xbox Live, this is a screenshot from MacAssault. MacAssault is Microsoft's most successful Xbox Live game and it has the largest user population. And here you choose which game type you want to play and against how many people you want to play. And then you're presented with this list of gamer tags, that's stable game identifiers of other players who are ready to play with you. And this list is just sorted by connection speed. So, not surprisingly, there are some problems. Many matches are bland, some are really bad. This is how you could summarize the feedback we got in our interviews. This is also supported by a survey that was just done by the game studios, and there are many problems with these matchmaking systems. In fact, much misbehavior is encountered in games, team killings, counteracting missions. You probably know that yourself when you regularly go on Xbox Live. This is, however, not very new. That happens on other online platforms as well. What's really new is the voice element, and that makes everything a bit more problematic, actually. So you have a high number of insults that are exchanged, threats are given to others. In fact, more than half of the users in the survey encountered a problem or an insult in every other game. So it's really a huge problem. It's not just a minor issue. Trash talking is a word that comes up. Trash talking is actually part of the online experience. It's enjoyed by many, but at the same time, it can escalate very easily, particularly on Xbox Live. And just in case you're not an Xbox Live player, here's an example of some trash talking. These are interns at Microsoft, and they actually meet every other week to play Xbox Live in one of the conference rooms.
Hi, Doctor. You're not angry, are you? Anger management issues.
So I don't know whether you heard that, but what was the problem is how do these anger management issues spill over so much in Xbox Live? And well, what we know from research or general research in social psychology is, well, there's first of all a lack of accountability. There's such a large user population, very little handles to track individual identities, so the chance of a re-encounter is very low, and therefore your incentive to misbehave relatively large. Secondly, there's the disinhibiting effect of de-individuation. Other users are little more than disembodied voices, so there's nothing that calls into action social norms that are used to when you have face-to-face encounters. And finally, there are just mismatches. You have avid trash talkers being paired up with people that are easily insulted, or you have aggressive professionals that talk to shy beginners or teenagers to veteran gamers. So how do we want to overcome this problem? We want to base matches on personal attributes, and we hope that this will reduce de-individuation. Others will be perceived more as real human beings. So your norm compliance, the way you behave towards them should be more in line with everyday behavior. And finally, it's also known that if you can find out that you share some attributes with someone, you can build on that some mini-alliance with these people. This is how we get things done in everyday life. We look for some communality, and this lubricates our social interaction with people we don't know. And that's called Jeitinhos by anthropologist D'Amata. The other element we want to test in this study is to look whether adding a voice tag, a voice recording, or a portrait photo actually adds or helps. The reason for adding these types of information is that they convey information that is not normally given explicitly in a conversation, but still is very important to make your decisions who to socialize with or who to spend time with. And secondly, particularly photos are extremely quickly parsed. It's very easy to go through a list of photos rather than going through a list of explicit personal attributes. And also there's some research that shows that visual identification actually increases cooperation in such situations. Here's just a quick mock-up of how these personal and social attributes could be integrated. We have, again, the MacAssault matchmaking screen. Here the system now knows your personal attributes, and you can choose 2 more attributes on which to be matched. And then the system maps out the other players in terms of similarity on these 2 attributes. So you get a universe of other players. At the center, the other player who's waiting for you, who's most similar to you, and then you can navigate this globe and according to similarity. And if we have voice tags as well, you can get actually little recordings of these people who are available to play with you.
Hey,
so,
I'm Sean Kelly and I love playing MacSalt. I'll kick your ass.
So that's just an example of a pre-recorded message. So you can actually use your controls to go through this globe. This is just a mock-up. What we actually do in this project is prove the point. We want to find out whether this actually does help. So our first question is, do people actually enjoy games more when they are paired based on personal information, voice, or photo? And if that is the case, which we hope, then we will be able to analyze, or we want to analyze, what actually determines preference within these elements. So how do we go about this? What's the research design for this study? We will be given email addresses by Xbox Live of MacAssault players, so we can contact them and invite them for a study. And the first part of the study will be done in the online in our online laboratory, which I will introduce later. We will actually get profiles from about 400 players, and we will assign them into different conditions. So we have on the left the players in the baseline condition. They just give their profile information, and we will match them. And the other 3 groups give personal information, or give personal information plus photo, or personal information plus a voice tag, as you just heard. And we will then give these feedbacks back to these players and let them choose who they want to play with. And the unique feature about this research design is that it's not just a hypothetical question, but that they actually will be paired up in stage 3, at least a subset of the people who participate online. And we will invite them into the game test lab and compare their gaming experience against those that have not been presented with the attributes by others and just have been matched in the conventional way. So how do we go about this? The study timeline. Next week we want to start getting the profiles, and here's just an example of our online lab profiling tool, if it comes up. There we go. So this is just some information I entered about myself. This is first just general personal information, and then some more gaming-specific information for Xbox Live game playing and for MacAssault. Some personality scales, and also this is now an example of the voice condition. We ask participants to ring in and leave their voice tag, which we will then integrate in their profile in the next stage. So that's stage 2 then. And here we will play the profiles back to our participants and ask them to rate the profiles in terms of how much they would want to play with Will in this example, and also to other dimensions, how much they would like this person, how much they think the game will be impacted. And here is an example of
Will. I beat MacAssault in the first day of playing. I will own you if you dare play me.
And so participants will go through a whole number of these profiles and rate them, and based on their ratings we will actually match them and see whether those have a better experience than those that just have been conventionally matched. So what are the outcomes? What do we expect from this project? If we find that the personally matched people have a better experience, we will have a list of relevant attributes for Xbox Live that could be included in their matchmaking process. And also, and that's very interesting, we will, based on the rich source of data we have from all the individual ratings, have the possibility to do a regression analysis so we can actually predict or find out which personal attributes predict preference. So this could be the input for an auto-matching algorithm that also could be implemented by Xbox Live. And finally, because we include photo and voice, we will have a good source of fundamental knowledge about the effect of these modes for other projects that will allow ad hoc online collaboration, like the ones you've seen today. Finally, I'd like to say thank you to people at the Microsoft Game Studios and Xbox Live who've been very helpful in setting this project up and continue to help running it. If you have questions, please ask them now or contact me later. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
So, did you look at, there's two things I thought about there. One is have you looked at like a rating system similar to what they do on the Zone with their matchmaking?
A kind of feedback system.
So I can see that like this guy's rating's 10 miles higher than mine, so I don't want to play with him. I want to play with lower rated people.
In terms of skill.
In terms of skill. So
yeah. I mean,
self-identifying the skill level, I prove my skill level based on my gameplay.
That could be easily integrated as part of such a profile. In terms of what we also had in the discussions when we spoke about this project earlier is to have some feedback system about behavior. The problem that we saw there is that because it's so easy to be rematched, there's little gratification to actually provide feedback. And therefore, eBay-type reputation system, we think, would be difficult to implement. But to have an implicit skill level that will be part of your profile, I think, is a good idea. You had two issues, I think?
Yeah. Well, you actually covered the second one was why not an eBay reputation system?
Okay. No, that's another comment.
You just think it's too difficult to...
It's not too difficult. If you could do it very cheap to do, or implicit even, if you just record who you play with, who you replay with, I think that would be a very good approach. But if as soon as there's some effort involved in actually giving feedback, then it will be difficult, I think. In fact, there's a feedback element in there at the moment, but I think it's hardly used by anyone. Very few people know about it. Sorry, there was another question first. Yeah. Okay.
Just on this point, are you going to test that assumption? I think that's a great feedback. I'd probably do it. I think you should test the assumption.
I'd love to, but I've already got one project, and I'd like to do it.
It's the follow-up project.
It's a very interesting question.
That would be a better. That would be a better way to get a real sense of the person you're playing with, more objective way to really know what you're dealing with.
Oh, the implicit feedback, whether you play again.
No, I mean, if other people, like an eBay sort of thing, rather than, it's the same analogy, right? Do you trust what the seller says about themselves or about 50 other people who have bought from them say about them, right?
Okay.
Just a comment that the criteria for thumbs up versus thumbs down on a game match is very different than eBay. I mean, it's very subjective.
Yeah, but you're just ranking them. You could just rank them against those same scales that the people are ranking themselves against, right? Like, is he trash talking or not? That sort of thing.
That's a lot of work, though.
Well, just for keep them out. I don't know.
If we have a feedback
system,
I think it has to be very cheap for every individual user. Maybe it's just something like, oh, this was a bad experience. If you're really aggravated, then we can use this negative energy actually to get you to do something. But if something is okay, I think people are not willing to give explicit feedback. But if we could monitor just their behavior and use that as a feedback system, that maybe just runs in the background and it's not even explicit, that would be very interesting. Yeah?
I was just thinking in terms of what you're just discussing, is that as simple as saying, I like playing with this person, and then you cluster people around like people, and I say I like someone, the people they like, I cluster with them, and they're more likely to show up for me. Something that simple.
I mean, that's something which we want to do in terms of this analysis as well. We want to find out whether there's a group or a cluster of people that prefer other players with a certain pattern or profile, and then hopefully identify different types of players and be able to predict who they would like and wouldn't like.
How persistent are online identities in the system, and is there any chance now for a person to invest in their online identity?
What is unique about Xbox Live is that they have stable gamer tags, stable identities. So when you sign up with your account, you get an identity, and you have that across all games and across all the time you use the service. So there is a chance to give feedback on game identities, and you can also have friends lists. So you can, if you really enjoy playing with someone, you can put them on their friend list. But this is, as far as I know, is something that will be developed further. So there are not many tools at the moment to track individuals. Yeah.
How does your system work with tournaments, or are you planning to work with that style of gaming?
So that you have several players or several teams.
Building tournaments, building groups to then become, larger, to form, some first place type, end tournament.
Well, I mean, at the moment we don't have any system. I mean, what we saw was just a mock-up for one-off games, and that would be, you would have one host, and that would be the anchor on which the matching is done, and then the other people join.
So you're not planning to address tournaments?
Excuse me?
You're not planning to address that style?
This study will be, it's basically testing the water, seeing whether these personal attributes do matter at all, and which we are focusing on MacAssault because we know that there's much grief, and also we have a huge or a big installed base to test on. Then if you find that, it does something there, I think we would address that in the next stage. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for coming. It was a kind of a long presentation series, lots of presentations. Everyone will be around for a little bit, so if you have questions, just feel free to ask any of the groups about their projects, or shoot me an email. The presentations are all up on our website, and thanks for coming.